Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar and Brawl. I hope you're having a decent day. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam. I'm back with another Spar and Brawl interview. So today we have the pleasure of being joined by Jared Bauer. Jared, thank you very much for joining us again today. I'm sure a lot of people on YouTube are very familiar with your work. Of course, you are one of the founders of Wisecrack. On the internet, it puts you down as a director and a producer, and I know you've also done work in that area. And now I believe you've moved to Finland recently and you have your own new YouTube channel. So perhaps you can complement a little bit of what we we're saying, add some details about yourself and what you've been up to recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much covered the main strokes. I started off in YouTube about 8 or 9 years ago, founded a company called Wisecrack with my business partner. The company, I'm no longer part of the company. I left the company in 2020. Yeah, 2020. Is that right? 2021, 20. Yeah, 2020. And then now I am making a transition to working in games. So I moved to Finland, pretty much on a YOLO. So
Nice.
And yeah, I'm just kind of. I mean, I still feel kind of lost, to be perfectly honest. So I don't really feel like I can give any like a definitive answer of like this is who I am, this is what I do, because I myself am wondering about it all the time.
I see. So what do you mean on a YOLO? You just got up and packed your stuff and went to Finland, or anything that?
Hold on. Sorry, there was
No worries.
oven went off.
We'll cut a few seconds off.
Yeah,
No
if you want
problem.
to restart the question.
No problem. No, I was saying, yeah. So, how you said you just kind of went on a little YOLO, but yeah, anything in particular that dragged you to
Attracted.
Finland?
Honestly, so I live in Helsinki right now. If you had asked me a year and a half ago, where is Helsinki? I would have been like, I would have, given you the classic American answer, like, I don't know, fucking Norway or something. And, and, but it was just, an opportunity. I didn't really have a lot of opportunities, to be honest. It's very hard. I mean, to start a career after doing stuff on YouTube. People see YouTube on your resume and they don't know what the hell to do. I mean, it's very, very difficult. So as much as I'd like to build myself up as somebody who had a lot of opportunities, I really didn't. And this was just one of them. And I felt very disillusioned with Los Angeles and Hollywood, and the lockdowns were particularly just unbearable in LA. So I was just like, I need a big change. I'm going to just do it.
I see. Yeah, Europe seems to be much better with the lockdowns. But yeah, what you're saying with the
especially Scandinavia.
Yeah, true. But what you're saying about YouTube too, that's funny and concerning, especially since you were part of such a accomplished kind of enterprise and project. Yeah, it's something you can put on paper, and it seemed like an extremely professional endeavor, if you ask me. Really,
it seemed like very prestige for YouTube. So I mean, I think you talked about it when you left Wisecrack, that it was quite high production values. So how come that?
Well, the thing is that like there's just like, I mean, name a couple production companies that like actually are hiring, or like any kind of digital media companies that are hiring. I mean, Vice, nope, laying people off. BuzzFeed, nope, stock going to they're not hiring anybody. But the business is just not, it's not a good business. And for somebody like me who first of all, I just I didn't want to start it. I mean, like realistically, no one's hiring for any like kind of executive head of this thing in digital media. So I would have really had to just start over as like a freelancer, like gig economy kind of stuff, because those are the only jobs in digital media. So it was just like a really uniquely bad place to be in, basically.
I see. Got you. So yeah, with your new channel, it seems like Sam knows Wisecrack much better than me. He's the one who introduced to me, but I've been watching a lot of your stuff. I also enjoyed the vlog that you made going from the US to Helsinki. But yeah, what kind of stuff are you focusing on your channel? Could people expect the same stuff as really Wisecrack?
Well, I would say that, I go through these series in my life where I I think the only thing I have to just create stuff that I'm proud of, because at the end of the day, if I create something cynically and it doesn't perform well, I'm going to really hate myself. But if I create something that I like and I'm proud of and it doesn't perform well, then at least I have that to fall back on. So, it's either an insight that I'm proud of. I mean, like the things that informed at least in a particular era of Wisecrack, are still very essential to my personality. So movies, philosophy, literature to some extent, although that was very much someone else's voice. So yeah, I mean, it's more movies, more philosophy, more just like, if I feel like by doing this hard work, I can kind of level up as a writer and kind of discover new ways of thinking by making the project, then I'm going to do it. So, and then like, everything's up in the air. Everything is it's a ground for experimentation. I just haven't had a lot of time to do experiments. So, and I try to get a video just done in one day because I have a full-time job and trying not to like just recreate the situation I used to be in. Where like, the channel and the job just dominated every thought I had in my head. So, I try to be kind of protective of me not getting obsessed again. So sorry, that was a long answer, but basically, philosophy, movies, comedy, things that are important to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And so you do this on top of your job. And I saw that you also stream on Twitch almost like 3 times a week on top of that too.
Yeah, it's been fun. I love to play video games, and I just kind of made the claim to my audience that I was going to stream Elden Ring, and so I did it, and it's fun. So I'm enjoying doing that.
Yeah, we're really unfamiliar, like at all, both of us with gaming, and therefore with Twitch too. So how is it on Twitch? Like
I'm better.
Sorry, you're more, but in terms of your growth and what you experience with the viewers and stuff, comparing it to YouTube. Anything that comes to mind, how like different it is perhaps?
Well, it's very different. It's very hard to carry over an audience. So my audience is nowhere near as large on Twitch as it is on YouTube. But it's a much more intimate setting. It allows for just long conversations to be had with the audience while I'm playing games. I have an idea of like who my core followers are. And I've been able to get to know some of them off Discord and stuff like that. So like, it's more intimate. It's also a time, the other thing is that like the YouTube algorithm is so punishing if you upload something that doesn't perform. And so sometimes I want to have conversations with people, but I don't really think it would be something that would resonate with my YouTube audience. So I'll just invite them on to the Twitch stream and we'll talk while I'm playing a video game. And, in that sense, Twitch is just kind of like a dumping ground, where the algorithm works differently, and so it's just kind of an outlet for other things.
I see. Yeah, sorry, Sam, for monopolizing the conversation right now, but yeah, said that on YouTube, it can be kind of damaging if you put something that I guess YouTube doesn't think that you want your audience. Do you think that leads to even them showing other stuff less frequently, or just that video that YouTube thinks? And I know it's hard to tell what the algorithm's up to, but some of the videos we put on YouTube is like, no, there's no one I can think of that has any interest in watching this video, and others do. So do you think it even damages the channel when you put up stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't prove it to you. There's actually probably very, very few people, like literally like high priests of data that can actually know these things for sure. But just based on the assumption that we know that the algorithm is there to make money for Google, we can assume that, and it's the same with advertising, at least these platforms work with, like it's only going to give someone an impression if it has a high likelihood of clicking. And if you've proven to the algorithm that this person doesn't click on videos from your channel, then it's going to be less likely to promote videos from that channel. So, in a sense, every time that someone doesn't click on one of your videos after it's been given to them as an impression, it theoretically hurts. So, you really got to be good at giving the people what they want, which is another thing that makes YouTube which makes YouTube burnout very real, is that after a while, or really, I mean, not even after a while, I mean, pretty much from the get-go, it's the channel belongs to your audience, especially, well, if if you are doing it for performance reasons, if you are doing it to make a certain amount of money, get a certain number of views, hit certain metrics, I mean, you have to give the people what they want.
Yeah, I know, it's understanding YouTube algorithm and stuff. I mean, been doing this for almost 2 years. There's some stuff I just don't get, because I've realized YouTube loves names. I mean, at least names of famous people in the headline, it seems. That's how it picks up on most storylines. But then there are some famous names that you put and you just don't get that reaction, and you're just like, wow, I thought I thought this was something YouTube was into, and perhaps the audience too, but yeah, not at all. It still baffles me.
It's a black box. You'll never really know.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. So yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your political leaning, and then maybe we can get into some more topics and conversations. Sam here had written.
Before that, I was gonna ask, how did you? I mean, we had a question about your research process in Wisecracker now. Do you go out, like, do you review the philosophical works, or do you do a whole literature review when, like, something like Morbius or Dark Knight comes out? Or did you, I mean, it's just fascinating to me, how did you organize your research when you are doing an analysis of a movie or an author?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a single answer, but it's a variety of things. Sometimes it's, I just watched Deadpool. I know that it's deeply cynical in a unique way. I'm going to see what kind of philosophy is written about cynicism. Bam, Peter Sloterdijk has a book about cynicism. Pick that book up, skim through it, see if there's anything that can be related to what's unique about Deadpool. That's one thing that happens. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes I just read a book and I'm like, man, I really think that this book has such an important message that I would love to spread to people. What's popular right now? Okay, the Johnny Depp trial is the biggest thing in the world. I can make that fit. Yeah. And then, and then it just kind of goes that way. So I'm working on a video right now, which, again, I'm breaking my 1-day rule, because whenever I'm writing a video by myself, which is something I haven't done in many years, but it's what I'm doing now, I just end up reading the book twice just to make sure to get it right. So right now I'm doing a video about Star Wars and different modalities of belief. And so that was just really just like a serendipitous thing. Like somebody had mentioned this book written in the 80s by this French anthropologist called Do the Greeks Really Believe in Their Myths? And then I was like on social media and I saw that like there were these people who were seemingly jumping through these logical hoops to try and justify the fact that, in 10 years, Ewan McGregor turns into Sir Alec Guinness. Like, and I was like, well, why do you find it necessary to make that make sense? I mean, obviously the reason that that's the case is because it's a produced thing. This story's told out of order. Alec Guinness is dead, and so that kind of led me down to understand, like, to what extent, right. It's like, to what extent do people actually believe in Star Wars, like the Greeks believed in their myths? And so, sometimes it's just like, serendipitous like that. I'm like, okay, I can make that. It's a lot of like fishing for, okay, here's an interesting idea. Can it fit with this property? No. All right, I'll put that idea on the back burner. Maybe this idea works with this property. Can't find anything to work with this property. I'll put that on the back burner. 10 weeks later, here's an idea that works with this property. Now I've got something. Let's go. Stuff like that.
A lot of time, it seems, into your videos and all these that you make. It's really great. And I think your videos also seem to have like an overall argument, which I feel like we fail to do sometimes in our videos, but YouTube really seems to enjoy this. The audience, I think, really seems to enjoy it when there's an overall argument in these kind of videos.
The one thing that, at least when I was running Wisecrack, the one thing that every pitch had to answer in order for us to make it into a video, it's a very simple question. And the question is, so what? Mm-hmm. Like, why does it matter? Like, why is it interesting? Why does it matter? What's the point? And if there wasn't an answer to that, then we didn't make it, or if there wasn't a convincing answer.
100%. So at Wisecrack, did you guys have some, like, some sort of, not producers, but somebody to like make sure, because sometimes with Sam and I feel like if there was like a third person taking a look, they would really like be able to like streamline our thoughts and ideas more and make sure that we're not just making a video rambling about stuff that we like.
Well, over the 8 years or so that I built the company, I mean, there was a time when it was just me as the only editorial voice. And then, eventually we grew to a point where we could hire one other person who I would bounce all my ideas off of. We would send drafts back and forth. And then eventually we grew to a point where we had a third person. And then like we would, do the same thing, more voices, more heads together, more brainstorming, etc.
I see. Okay, should we get a little bit into your political? How would you describe yourself politically?
That was
I just don't know how to
question.
answer. I don't know how to answer that. It's just like such
a
broad
question. That's
my question was really, are you secretly a Marxist? Because like I used to watch
that's an easier question to answer.
Yeah, that's, I think it narrows it down. But I used to watch Wisecrack, and it's pretty much, I feel like there's a lot of criticisms that Marxism or left in general, especially like a lot of Frankfurt School, not just like economic stuff. So I just wanted to see what is your relationship with the left, really. That was the point of the joke question, I guess.
Yeah. So I think my relationship to Marx is a lot like my relationship to Roger Ebert. You know Roger Ebert is? Famous critic.
Sure. Well, yeah.
He's dead, but yeah, the thumbs up guy. I mean, Roger Ebert is one of the greatest film critics of all time. I mean, some of his reviews of movies are some of the best literature about movies, some of the most precise and acute observations made about movies of all time. The thing about Roger Ebert, though, is when he tried his hand at making movies, they're fucking awful. He wrote one movie called In the Valley of the Dolls 2. It's awful. And that's kind of my relationship with Marx. Marx is, the most insightful, acute critic of our time. I mean, the way that he has described capitalism and, the lens for which he created to understand what capitalism does to us has remained relevant. And alienation is the defining conflict of our time for all developed countries. The way that he described the varying degrees of consequences that industrial capitalism will have on our relationship to ourselves, our community, and the value of our labor is the defining issue of our time. Ideology is, again, something that is almost impossible to deny. It's something that, again, no one has put it better than him. He is like, there's Marx the man, Marx the writer, and Marx the meme. Marx the man, who cares? The guy, maybe he was cool to hang out with, maybe he wasn't, I don't know. From what I understand, he had a skin disease and was probably pretty cranky a lot. Marx the writer is, again, there's some stuff that he wrote that is just like undeniably illustrates our world with a level of precision and insight that almost no one has really been able to copy or to achieve since then. Now, Marx the meme, and what I mean by that is like, well, what does it even mean to be a Marxist today? I mean, even within Marx's lifetime, the meme of being a Marxist got out of his control. And even he said he wasn't a Marxist anymore. So if somebody asks me what it means to be a Marxist, I don't really know what that means. It can mean so many things. As far as critical theory in Frankfurt School, I think that, look, there's value in criticism, but I don't think that critical theory or the Frankfurt School, I don't really think that, it's not productive. It's like, again, it's part of Roger Ebert as the critic. He's able, the Frankfurt School is able to describe a lot of issues, a lot of perhaps implicit, interesting ways that culture and industrial life works under this system, but it doesn't really propose an alternative. And and if I'm being totally honest, like my biggest beef with the left is that I feel like critical theory has basically taken up the aesthetic of critical thinking, in the sense that, like, it's just fashion. like critical theory is fashionable because it seems like you have access to some kind of like elevated perspective. Oftentimes because these things are written very cryptically, oftentimes because the ideas are very ephemeral and like kind of obtuse and hard to discern. But oftentimes, you know, it's certainly not something that I live my life by. But I always thought that it was worth. I mean, you know, like again, like it's worth it to be Roger Ebert. Not everybody has to be Quentin Tarantino as well. So I guess that's my answer.
No, very fair enough. And I mean, I think I agree with quite a bit of it. I mean, both Marx, the way I understand it, is that, you know, his criticism and his critique of really of society and capitalism is probably one of the better parts of him. And then, yeah, we recently did a mini series on Frankfurt School. We wanted to make it longer. Unfortunately, it didn't end up being the way that we wanted, really. And I used to really like Marcuse from when I had read him in university, and I still like, but once he came to his prescriptive part about like how to change society, I mean, perhaps you would agree a little bit more than we do. I mean, I'm just guessing because maybe we're more into arts and films, although Sam really is. But I mean, they reach based on what I understood, they were kind of saying that, you know, using art as a way of changing life, and changing the world, which really seems like a hard thing to do.
Like are we talking about like Aufheben der Kultur kind of shit?
I mean, Sam, can you explain better what they suggest with like through, especially Marcuse with through?
Yeah, it's just like you bring upon the Marxist revolution through the subverting of culture, you know, inundating. Yeah. It's like you've seen Hail Caesar. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
The Coen brothers. Yeah.
Where Marcuse is a character talking about the dialectic and how they need to bring about the revolution by convincing George Clooney. By convincing George Clooney that he needs to have less Christ in his movie and more people struggle.
I know.
That's one of the most underrated Coen brother movies. Underrated or underappreciated, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Marcuse gets even to some weird reactionary stuff about language and like the way you have to police your language internally. So I think I don't know, I feel like they turn it inside out. Instead of Marxism should be about materialism of the world, I think they turn it inwardly. So that was my
that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, I don't consider myself an orthodox materialist, nor do I mean, I don't know. Do most Marxists, are they still like labor theory of value?
Are they
orthodoxies? I don't know. I don't even know. Like, I'm sure there are plenty of leftists who are, you know, have adopted kind of like the Baudrillard thing. I don't really know. I mean, and that's the thing. Like most of the time, I would say like 80% of the time that the word Marx is brought up in common culture, it really just has to do with like the notion of oppressed versus oppressor, and using that as kind of like a heuristic that has somehow defined or characterized other movements that are happening culturally, which I never really understood. I mean, I really think that the moral panic against Marx is not really justified. And I also don't think that you're really winning, or that it's even like a code or like a big slam dunk for you to like say, hey, this movement I don't like is similar to Marxism, or like you can like put Marxism over it like a transparency. Most of these things you can do the same thing with Christianity, they just don't. And yeah, I don't really see the reason.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of mean how Marxism is attacked in the way in like media mainstream? You mean in that sense, and just generally?
Well, so to be specific about the example I was talking about, so like you'll hear figures like Jordan Peterson, for example, say that like wokeness or whatever you want to call it is like a kind of like an updated form of Marxism, because instead of, you know, like the working class versus the ruling class, it's kind of like, you know, the oppressed based on identity factors versus the oppressor. But you could just as easily say that like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, you can look at it like that, but I could also say that like, you know, whiteness as, you know, like one of the tenets of is like whiteness as original sin. You know, why aren't we blaming Christianity for this, you know, because like that's the, you know, the kind of structure of thought that's given birth to this sense of an original sin that one can never atone for, and leads to people adopting ideas like with Robin DiAngelo and all that stuff. I mean, I feel like the argument is trying to atone. I feel like the argument is just as valid. It's just which is why I don't understand. Like, okay, like there's plenty. Yeah.
Isn't Jordan Peterson tapping into a pre-existing cultural history that in America sort of that the red or whatever has come to mean bad? So, if he said, I think, to me, he seems mostly like either naive or just trying to make money. That's why I'm saying that. So,
there could be an element of pragmatism to that. Definitely. Yeah. It could be the case that he just thinks like, oh, I can probably get more passionate followers or more people to agree with my position if I kind of redify this movement. I mean, maybe. I haven't read any of his books. I don't follow him that closely.
I had to read some of his book for our show, and it was
because we just terrible. Once made like an off the cuff.
I prefer
remark.
Heidegger. I rather.
And we didn't see that coming.
Heidegger.
Sorry.
Wait, so did you read the one that's like Maps of Meaning or whatever? That's the one that's like his serious work, and then the rest are like his, his like popular books.
Yeah, I read the Maps of Meaning because exactly. I wanted to get not the popular one, the 12 Rules for Life. I read more of that. It's Jungian, it's Jungian astrology mixed, sort of updated for a world where alienation. He brings, fundamentals of his criticisms are awful, but he brings it into a sort of self-help, sort of, you should stand up for yourself type of, pragmatism that kind of makes sense, even if you're Marxist or whatever, that you should, try your hardest, whatever the situation is, blah, blah, blah. But it's a lot of darkness and Jungian. It's very nonsensical. It was the closest thing an English writer can get to a German writer, I think. That is my view.
Yeah. I mean, I've not heard any. I mean, I don't know. You're probably the first person that I've talked to that's actually read the book. But from everything, I've never heard anyone describe it as cogent. Like everyone says, it's just like meandering, difficult to follow, and I'm just like, I don't have time for that.
No, I mean, it's just, again, if you've read astrology book, it's just like that. It's very simple. A lot of bullshit graphs. Like, it's just so funny. It is fun. Mm-hmm. It's fun if you want to make fun of it.
We were so surprised. I mean, we just like randomly made a comment about him, and then some of our viewers were surprised. I mean, people on the left typically and all that, they kind of came to his defense. So we had to kind of dig into the stuff that he says a little bit more, listen to his Joe Rogan podcast and a few other things. But
well, to be clear, I just want to make clear, like, I don't hate the guy. I'm not like, I'm not like voting down the party line of like, all right, Jordan Peterson, like I have to like disavow and disagree with everything he says because he's unfashionable toward my tribe. Like, I reject that. I mean, to be honest, as I said, I haven't read his books. There are certainly some things he's said that I've agreed with. And I think that most people can make that claim. It's just that people are so divided and, I don't know either whether they're justifying it with the Overton window or some other bullshit. They just say like, oh, well, even though he's right, I can't admit it.
No, I'm sure exactly. I'm sure he says a lot of things that are right. He just also has he's saying to him stuff. He has this confidence in what he says. So maybe he'll talk about something that he knows very well. And okay, fine, you can have authority and confidence in what you're saying. But he'll use that exact same approach to talk about everything and anything and give his opinions on everything and anything, which it doesn't allow you to take him seriously for too long.
But how is that different than any other philosopher?
Perhaps I guess many of them don't have YouTube channels and go on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, everybody after David Hume.
Yeah.
I agree. But I would say he's more like again, very Jungian in his way of talking. That's my view. But
no, and that's like I think he even admits that.
Yeah, he admits that. Yeah, he's. It's just, I mean, and his misrepresentation of French philosophers, because I don't like French. I don't like Foucault. I think he's very problematic personally. but his representation of them, I think, is just not fair. It's just a different guy.
Yeah. Okay, so this, do you guys know? No, I hear you, but I still think that, like, one of the questions you guys sent me on that document was about the culture war, and one of the things that I wanted to mention was that, like, I just don't think people are listening to each other, and I think that people are talking past each other, and this is one of the things. So Jordan Peterson is one of them. Do you guys know who James Lindsay is?
Oh, I've heard of him.
No, I don't.
He's big on Twitter, and he's recent. He's a pseudo intellectual. Am I correct? Of that, like, semi.
Well,
he's rational,
I don't know.
man, or something. Well, I've heard he's very rational or something.
James Lindsay's deal is that he was, like, big in, like, when Richard Dawkins and, like, all those new atheist dudes came out in, like, the late or early 2000s or something, like,
early 2000s.
He was in, like, economics school or something like that. He has, like, a PhD in math, and then, like, he dedicated himself to the new atheism movement, and then the new atheism movement basically got Me Too'd to hell, and now it doesn't exist anymore. And so now his new thing is basically anti-wokeness. And I guess his most famous book is he, along with a woman named Helen Pluckrose, wrote a book called Cynical Theories, where he does a lot of the same work that, people attribute to Jordan Peterson, in that he kind of traces the origins of, this woke thought or whatever to figures like Foucault. Now, the thing is that now I haven't heard exactly what comes out of Peterson's mouth when he talks about Foucault and Derrida and stuff like that, but I did read all of Lindsay's book, and assuming they're saying the same thing, I think the distinction that I would make, that even people like that I know and respect, they always make this confusion, and it comes back to the same thing that I was saying earlier about Marx. There's Marx the man, Marx the writer, and Marx the meme. I think that what Peterson, well, I don't know about Peterson, but let's just say Lindsay and Peterson believe the same thing. What Lindsay is criticizing is Foucault the meme. Foucault as it, like, basically Foucault in the game of telephone.
As a product. Yeah.
What is the word you said?
As a product, as a cultural product.
A product.
That people use in parties, basically, to.
Yeah, I mean, an easy way to say it is just like as a game of telephone. Like, somebody teaches you pure Foucault, that person teaches it to the next person, that person writes this thesis, that which is like, some alteration of Foucault, next person writes their thesis, and then at the end you get Robin DiAngelo. I think that at least that's Lindsay's point, and, like, so when you say things like, oh, well, Foucault would never agree with these Robin DiAngelo points, like, no one is saying, or at least Lindsay's not saying that. And, like, that's what I'm talking about. The talking past each other thing is like, if Peterson or someone says that, the origin of this stuff is in Foucault, and then says Foucault never says that, you're not even addressing each other's points. And, like, that's one of the things about the culture war that's just, like, so upsetting to me, is like, we're not even talking to each other.
And do you think this is something that's gotten, like, kind of worse recently, or would you say this has been, going on, and now in woke culture, this is just, we're being seen there, or in the woke debate?
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, things were very divided in my parents' age as well. There was Vietnam was its own culture war. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have Twitter. It's hard to tell how much that those things are amplifying what, at least, like, the perceived fever pitch of these things. It's really hard to say.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Because I'm tempted to say, like, yeah, it's way worse than ever, but I also feel like that's kind of the easy answer, and probably every generation says that about their cultural issues.
Just before moving on from Peterson, I just wanted to add that I agree completely with, like, there could be even, I think, good argument made that certain things have their origins in certain other things. Neoliberalism has its origins in Adam Smith, which is very different. But I don't know about Lindsay, but Peterson, in his interviews, the way he represents people and their motives, again, Peterson might have positive motives, might have negative motives, I don't care, but he talks about people's motives, which goes beyond criticizing, I think, their commentary or their thought. It's like they very bad.
Like people like Foucault, or just like
Derrida and Foucault are his biggest. He doesn't go close to Deleuze. He tries to avoid him as much as he can. yeah, it's mostly Derrida and Foucault. He talks about them as if he knows them or something, like that man. I mean, it's that man who was doing this, and it's like, okay, man, I don't agree with the guy, but just
He
chill
knows
out.
how to communicate with
Well,
a broad audience.
I mean, if that was the case, then yeah, I mean, if he was saying that like this guy is, if like Foucault, Derrida are literally espousing the ideas that we currently have, among universities that are bizarre, then yeah, I would also disagree. Again,
You're not.
I just don't know that much about Peterson. But yeah.
Well, I think this brings us to because you talked about culture, and you just recently left the US. What is your read on the political, culture landscape? Do you think it's, I mean, we talked about if it's getting worse, but you said you left the US because the lockdowns was too much. But do you think it's moving more positively now, less positively? What's the trend that you see?
Or you can also talk about some
hard.
political, issues right now that's on your mind, and
I mean, there are certain issues that are very important that I just know nothing about, like Ukraine. I have not been following, what one side is saying, the evidence of the other side. Like, I really know nothing. The only thing I know is that I'm 2 hours away. Is it a big deal in Finland? I'm 2 hours from the border. Is it a big deal? Honestly, the Finns don't really seem to care.
What about originally? The first weeks or month? How was it then?
Again, it's just
I don't know. I understand that so much.
I feel like these Finns are just like, bring it on. We don't give a fuck. I mean, there's mandatory military service. Yeah. They've all been training for this their whole lives. I mean, I don't know if they're as hardcore as Israelis in the sense that just all right, it's time to fight again. I mean, maybe they are. To be honest, I only really work with Finns. I don't really know that many Finns. Whenever you move to another country, oftentimes your friends are other expats.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. No, but that's so funny that news media covers just situation in such an exaggerated manner where you're in a country people are usually not that panicked about, because some of the news stories, the way they said it, you would think in Finland and Sweden people are just immigrating now to US because it's just too dangerous.
Yeah, and I mean again, I might just be in a complete bubble here, or just not really paying attention or something like that, but everything seems normal. But so, yeah, I know you asked my opinion about political issues, and I told you about the political issue I know nothing about. But I mean, I'll just go back to I think that it's not good because people are not listening to each other. People are not, and not even people are not listening to each other, but people don't even speak the same language. Zizek talks about a really interesting example, I think, that illustrates that, people we're just on completely different wavelengths. He talks about how we're so polarized we can't even decide what honesty is. To some people, Donald Trump is honest, or he's a real person because he tells racist jokes, because he's obscene, because he's crude, because that's what people are like when they're in an intimate setting among close friends. On the other hand, other people think that Biden is a real person because he's not like that, because he speaks well, and that he's not he doesn't seem to be seduced by these kind of more obscene elements of personalities. And so even just the idea of what a real person is, or what authenticity is, isn't even something that we can agree on. And I just think that that's just everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean there's no it's very hard to reach people. The one thing I definitely will say is I hate, first of all, I think that I mean, maybe this has always been the case, but I think that because of the internet, I've used the word memes a lot in this discussion, but memes are basically just new ways that language develops new terms. And I think that one of the really harmful things about this is language is moving too fast to the point where things are able to be discredited at an extremely quick rate. And so for example, this new term that I never heard of before until a couple of years ago is both siderism. like this notion that like, which I hate, because like I get criticized for like, oh, you're using this both siderism rhetoric as if like, if you don't vote down the party line if you don't vote down the party line of one of the cultural tribes, then you're just a coward, or you're falsely equivocating issues. And that really bothers me, because like ultimately all this is like, we just come up every time and it's just this cycle. It's just these people that are just very loyal and like just toxically oriented towards their tribe. And anytime anything threatens that tribe, they just come up with a new term that kind of like sarcastically or like, threatens the intellectual integrity or the moral integrity of anybody who questions it. And they just come up with, every time that something threatens their tribe, a new term comes out that's like, oh, I don't want to be associated with that term because that sounds uncool. All of a sudden now I'm like, the butt of a joke on TikTok or something like that. Now I'm one of them. I'm one of those both siderism dudes. And it's just, it's just a tactic. It's just like another just like ugly missile in the culture war.
No, I definitely agree with you, Jared. And, it's really making me think of people, just talking past each other and not listening to each other. I mean, I've seen a few of this. This has become really big. It seems like on YouTube, there are some people who are just really into debating. Sam, I'm trying to think of the person who debated Richard Wolff. I forgot. Destiny. Or like other ones. I mean, these people are just, their thing is debating. And they're just debating as a sport. I mean, they don't even agree with like any premise. There's like nothing that they even agree with. So from like the get-go, they're just talking past each other, and it's just done as a sport, as if, I don't know, they're in high school and they're at the debate club and practicing their debate skills instead of
it's like trying to get you, basically.
Yeah, it's like ballet or like a rap battle almost. Like a rap battle. It's just like, all right, who can sound more dominant, sound like more who can inflate their ego big enough where the other person just feels humiliated. And I feel like it's completely independent of content. And that's another thing that's like bothers me about the left, is like the left has really monopolized this certain like crypto what is the word I'm looking for, like
and by left here, are you referring to like Democrats and a little bit left of them? Is that who you're talking about? Like
normal people, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that like yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Every time I say the left, I don't even really know what I mean. But like, I think that, well, my point was they've just kind of monopolized like a certain aesthetic of intellectualism that oftentimes like, and I've had very, very successful, famous lefty YouTubers tell me, and I don't even, they sometimes they say like, oh, you should leave that up on your channel because sometimes, it doesn't even matter if people understand or not. People just want something that they can share as a stand-in for their own opinion. It's just like literally like, a fancy shirt. Like, I don't know what the Lacoste alligator means, but I want to wear it because I saw that Chad over there wear it, Oh, well, that's the Che Guevara thing. I mean, that yeah. I mean, that thing, that shirt animates like so much of the left right now. Like the left is the Che Guevara shirt.
Yeah, completely agree.
That's very true.
I mean, I would say the right was that always. So it's a bit more disappointing to see it from there. Like, I mean, in the right, there was a bit more expectancy of acceptance of symbolism and heroism and just, I don't know. It feels to me, maybe I'm out there. Maybe I'm being too much of a leftist. But
and
I mean, to me, the right. I mean, the way I would describe the right is just opportunistically trying to find all of the instances in which the left eats itself and makes these horrible mistakes that they just don't have the ability to self-correct, and then basically build these cultural movements antagonizing the excesses of the left, which, by the way, the left should get their shit together and get their own shit in order, but they can't do it. And then basically like all the Ben Shapiro's of the world, they're just like, all right, great. Here's all these fuck ups of the left that we can like start to, basically like harvest anger
Make
about.
money.
And then people, well, not only will we make money, but then people will vote Republicans, and we'll have lower taxes, which is what this is all about. It's just like this whole culture thing is just, it's just hiding an economic incentive.
Well, I think it's mostly just to avoid any economic debate. Just avoid that. That's the main thing. Whatever.
Exactly. Culture and race is a complete scapegoat for class, and even sexual orientation, sexual identity. It's all just gotten so crazy because people in power will do anything to keep the conversation away from economic inequality.
Yeah, I mean, once we interviewed Christian Parenti, and that's exactly like his main point that I got out of him, is that corporations and capitalists, or whoever you want to say, they're completely fine with all these other conversations that don't have anything to do with material conditions, because for them it's fine. It makes no difference. It's completely fine. And yeah, people on the left / Democrats have fully adopted this. I was telling Sam, I saw this tweet. The person was saying, oh, environmental justice, gender justice, all this, and they didn't even pay lip service to inequality. At least usually they would throw in inequality that could, cover all the economic stuff, but they don't even do it. And then I had a question, I mean, slightly related to the left, maybe a bit different than we're talking about. I wanted to see if you picked up on this, which was the Johnny Depp coverage. I mean, I personally found it really weird. I don't know how big you are in looking at other YouTubers, leftist YouTubers, people who identify as progressives, but they really stayed away from this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard story. And, fine, maybe Sam and I and others are a bit too into it. Maybe we can be guilty. I thought there was a bunch of...
Oh, dude, I watched every day. You fucking kidding me? It was the best show on in the world.
For sure. But putting that aside, right? We loved it and all that. But putting that aside, I thought there were like real things in there that some on the left even talk about, right? The most obvious one is the ACLU whole, ACLU side, that I thought it was perfect for a lot of people on the left. Didn't touch it. It had a lot to do with Me Too being extra mobilized during the Trump administration. Again, that didn't interest them at all. And they just tried to stay away and rather do these talking points of, people's personal lives have to believe, or what it will be for other victims, without even grappling at all with the actual evidence that was coming out during the trial, as if there was no trial happening. It's just this. I was really surprised just in general that they didn't want to touch this, even though a bunch of the things that they're into, including talking about how the ACLU has changed, was a big part of the story, but they didn't go near it. So I don't know if you got similar impression.
Well, this is so interesting for me to hear, because I think that our algorithm overlords think of us differently, because like I didn't see any of that. As a matter of fact, all of the stuff, my YouTube algorithm, my Google algorithm, my Facebook algorithm, they all think I'm like super conservative. Like I, like when I like scroll YouTube shorts, like it's Jordan Peterson video, and I deliberately don't watch it out of spite for like, why I'm not interested in this. Why do you think that I'm interested in this? Yeah. And so on the contrary, like all I saw was fucking justice for Johnny Depp.
Oh, for sure, but it didn't come from conventional leftists, though. But it didn't come from like conventional leftists.
I don't see. I don't see conventional, like
from people who have
ContraPoints,
channels or
ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube. Those never hit my suggested feed.
Oh, like no, but were they points or anybody, were they avoiding it, do you feel, or no, they covered it? Because we don't. Yeah, that's exactly. We watch really niche leftist channels, maybe, so we were a bit surprised by the fact but then again, it kind of makes sense, because when they did cover Johnny Depp and Amber Heard was after, and everybody took Amber Heard's side. Not that I have my own personal opinions about the court, but who cares? But like, it was very clear that they were following party lines, I think, rather than anybody really actually engaging with the content, let's say. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I also kind of reserve a strong judgment about it, because, I mean, neither one of these people are Boy Scouts. You don't know what happened beyond closed doors. And there is such a strong current of like just collective effervescent passion for like, it's almost strange. Like the same kind of like, collective mania that happened with Me Too it's the same thing that's happening with Justice for Johnny Depp. It's like,
Reverse.
okay, like, yeah, exactly. All these women who said, okay, for like, decades and decades, we've been taken advantage of, we've been exploited. And now, because the truth can finally get out, people get very passionate about the truth, and people get very passionate about truths that they feel like have been buried and that they feel should be unearthed. And so that's when you get the passion of the Me Too movement. And now there's all these dudes who are like, no, but you can't believe all women, because women are as subject to evil and narcissism and being manipulative as people. And now like, they're just like going fucking nuts with it. And like, everything's justice for Johnny Depp, this, justice for Johnny Depp, that. So no, like, having seen that pattern, I'm trying not to get caught up in the mania, because really another thing about politics these days, it really just seems like a successive series of just like collective insanity, one collective insanity after another, whether it's COVID, or to some extent Black Lives Matter, or this Justice for Johnny Depp thing. Like, everyone has to chill the fuck out, because like it's I mean, I know that like there was a big political, I mean, I like attempted to coin the term tribal identifier, but like if you use the term mass formation psychosis, which I guess is something that only people on the right believe in, or something like that, but like whatever you want to call it, I mean, if a bunch of people are screaming in a movie theater, other people are going to scream. If you see a bunch of people running down an alleyway towards you, you're going to turn around and run in the other way. I don't care what you call it. Point is, if people start getting fucking, there is a mob, following mob, collective effervescent mentality to human beings. It exists. And, there have been some just fucking, ridiculous lapses in patient logic recently, and it's just going to keep happening.
No, definitely. And I really like your tribal identifier term. I think that was in your Johnny Depp video. And perhaps this one, it didn't get as much like that, because for once people had, I mean, I know there was a lot of justice for Democrats and all that. Sorry, justice for Johnny Depp, and a lot of people just saying that. But at least a lot of people got to watch a lot of the trial. And, I mean, the trial were just cameras on them. I mean, of course, there's still the framing of the questions that were asked and all this, but it was, not edited. It weren't highlights of the trial. People were watching it for a while. So they just got so much of, what is going on and the information and all that. So, I mean, it was a very interesting trial. That's all.
Yeah, I saw an article, and I don't think the article was written by any kind of reputable source, whatever that is these days. But it was just some random
Washington
site,
Post?
maybe even a blog. Washington Post, the Bezos blog.
Bezos blog.
They said that I guess like their hot take or their prediction was that the Johnny Depp trial is going to be remembered as the moment that that the faith in mainstream media, like, it's always been kind of slowly decaying, but this is the point where it hits past 50%, because for the first time, the American people, or whoever people, got to see the information, the same amount of information as the press did. And yet you see the press, like, even like, magazine or, publications that I once thought were like models for my first company, like the Atlantic and the Guardian. And like, they're all like, giving these like just really poorly thought out takes about defending Amber Heard. And it just seems so ridiculous. And I think like maybe, their point was like, this is the point where people lose faith completely because this trial is so big. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not. But like, I remember there was this one article on the Guardian that was talking about how like, if we, the headline was something like, if Amber Heard isn't the perfect victim, or something like, or something like, okay.
I think we did a funny reading of that, I think, because that was one of our fun activities, that it was unbelievable. Like, I mean, again, I don't know who was at fault in that case. I'm not a judge or anything, but it was just ridiculous. Everybody was just following party lines as if reality was just a parallel universe, and we just gonna, that's my take.
But the most absurd thing about that take is like, but you could say the exact same thing about Johnny Depp. Like, the guy's like a fucking drug addict. He's got fucking clear problems. Like, is he not also an unperfect victim? Like, what the fuck is going on? Who's editing this shit? Like, who's allowing this to go live?
I mean, it's amazing. Like, I don't think I didn't watch all of mainstream media all the time, so I don't know. But from the beginning, I got the sentiment that mainstream, at least, TV channels, right? They kind of stayed away from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard because so immediately, so quickly, the narrative based on what people were watching was just people had this big narrative from the fact that they were watching. So I feel like they tried to stay away for once because they saw it was a bit tricky for them. But Guardian and Atlantic, so the written ones, no, they were completely fine. And maybe because they knew that their readers perhaps wouldn't follow the trial, so they can talk about it. But it seemed to me that CNN and other channels like this stayed away from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial a bit more than they would have if they didn't realize from the get-go, like, wow, people are very opinionated on this trial and it's not coming from the media, it's people watching it. Whereas, yeah, Guardian, Atlantic, they seem to still think, and they were publishing, I mean, we talked about a few of them, they were publishing the most cliche things, not even taking into consideration any of the facts or anything that being shared. They could have used as talking points from day one until the last day, the same exact ones. And even when the trial was over, they still stuck to them as if these people were just rolling their thumbs in the courtroom for 6 weeks.
I have a kind of an interesting exposure to quote unquote public opinion or something like that, in that, like, I've generally allowed people to friend me on Facebook for years now. And there was a guy, I don't even remember his name, but there was a guy who was defending Amber Heard on Facebook, and it just showed up in my feed, and it was a very heated conversation between him and his friends. None of these people, which I knew, but he said something that really disturbed me. And and I think that this is a large part of a lot of people's arguments when they defend Amber Heard, and that is, he said, "Look, I don't think that right now at this point in history we need to be doubting a woman who makes these claims." Now, first of all, whether you want to say, like, right now, first of all, the first thing that's wrong with that statement is, right now in history, you mean when women have had more independence and power than at any time in human history? What does that even mean? So true. That's the first reason it's stupid. But the second reason it's stupid is that, like, holy shit, I don't know if this person even realizes it, but they've just admitted to them that ideology is more important than truth. That they don't even care what the truth is. Yeah. What's most important is just, forming and curating and promoting the good narrative, that, like, they know what people ought to consume as truth better than what the truth can actually reveal. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Do you think people know that, or do you think that they're just being, my opinion is this guy was just like, he thinks that in order to be a good person, he must always just defend who he perceives to be the victim,
Yeah, and just parrot these kind of things, or tribal identifier, like you said. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, they react to treats, I think, and they get treats that way if they within their community. That's why right-wingers would probably say the exact opposite. And I would say that's, for me, living in a country where misogyny is much more common, this is like reverse racism, is like, the idea that are the same but in a more positive way, rather than all women are the same but in a more inferior way. And it's just the whole thing was that men, women is not really, that's not the most crucial maybe part about, I don't know, that was my view of feminism, but then again.
Right. And I think that, like, more to the point of people being, more enamored with, like, the aesthetic of a potential truth than the actual truth is, like, yeah, like, people would like to believe that, oh, it's just so, the truth would make much more sense, or would be much more symmetrical if we could believe that people who have been historic,
nice.
Right, that the truth is nice, that people who have been historically put down, that, they're good now, like, why would you believe that? Yeah. Why is there there's no reason to believe that. If anything, I mean, you would believe that these people, like, have a chip on their shoulder, or that they're resentful. I mean, I'm not saying that we should think that people who have been, trampled upon should be, like, looked at as down, but we certainly shouldn't assume that they're saints. That's ridiculous.
Have you seen the Adam
100%.
Curtis work? He has a great documentary about the Rwanda genocide, and how exactly when the workers, the UN human rights workers, whatever, they went there and to help a lot of people they were helping turn out to be the people who committed the massacre. Like, there was a bit of a like a situation in Rwanda. I think it was the Rwandan genocide, but
I
yeah,
haven't seen
Adam
that.
Curtis' work is just, yeah, he's fantastic on that. I highly recommend. Oh,
Do
sorry
you
about
remember what
that.
it was called?
And Adam Curtis documentaries, there's so many of them. I think it wasn't hyper normalization. I think it was. I'll try to. I think it was maybe on Charlie Brooker's News Wipe. I think if you put Adam Curtis, Charlie Brooker, it will come up. I think.
So if you want, you can take a quick look, and we can move to movies soon.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I thought
you can.
I thought
you guys can just email it to me later. There's no rush.
Yeah, I think email is.
No, when he was on his phone, when he was on the phone, I just thought of that because same time the Washington Post thing caught my eye again. So I thought we should maybe bring it up once properly.
Go ahead.
But Jared, I don't know if you have you following closely, and now they've actually, I mean, I don't want to laugh about someone getting fired, but I mean, Felicia Sonmez actually got let go. And I mean, I was telling Sam, like, I don't know, Washington Post created this Frankenstein now, and a lot of these people who are just extra or too woke, or I don't know what they are, and this time it came to bite them back in the ass. So I don't know what you made of that, besides perhaps finding it funny.
I haven't been following that. I don't know who that is.
It's surreal. It's surreal. So in the Washington Post, pretty much this one of their writers, David Weigel, he put out this tweet that, it's the most, so he retweeted a joke that any typical boomer would make. And pretty much another coworker, another writer, Felicia Sonmez.
A slightly sexist, very slightly.
Yeah, like a boomer, just imagine. So she came out, attacked him on Twitter, so like publicly saying, why are you doing this? Then through public channels at Washington Post, but through like their chat things that everybody talks about, made such a big scene about it, then went and attacked other colleagues, and then pretty much led to the Washington Post letting this person go. But yeah, it was one hell of a
who got
saga.
fired? The
lady
boomer?
actually got fired. Yes, sorry. So, and David Weigel was put on. They're not paying him for a month, so he's on unpaid leave for a month. The person who she said made the sexist joke, but he'll be back in a month. However, after a few days, because she continued
attacking other coworkers about she got an email from her boss saying basically you have to be congeal in a workplace, and she continued to attack everybody over sexism. And
yeah, imagine that, having to be put your self-righteous. Yeah, imagine that, putting your self-righteousness to the side, putting your absolute certainty that what is right and what other people ought to be able to say out of their mouths, and just be decent in the workplace. It's like, yeah, I mean, and as far as like the boomer joke, I don't know what the joke was, but I think that honestly, the new we talk about these moral panics, and usually when people talk about moral panics, like satanic panic, the suggestion is that it's not justified. And I think there's a moral panic around comedy right now that is horrible for society, definitely horrible for people who love entertainment, and just ultimately productive.
Jared, you won't believe this one. When I'll send you a thank you email after, I'll just include a picture of this joke, because I mean, I was like, come on, over this, it's absolutely nothing. And then, yeah, so now this is where we reached. But so Sam, do you want to move on to movies a little bit? Yeah, please.
Sorry for taking so much of your time. You had a fantastic video.
No, I've been the one talking, so don't apologize.
No, wait. So yeah, but you had this fantastic 3-part series on Nolan philosophy of films. You had What Went Wrong on The Dark Knight Rises. You had loads of other things on Nolan, other films. And in one of your recent videos, again, you mentioned that, for example, they say there are no conservative directors in Hollywood, but there is, for example, Nolan, one of the biggest directors in Hollywood, is making conservative movies. And that's, by the way, argument I heard from your channel, you and others. But I must say I'm a bit disagree, but I wanted to first just ask you to maybe explain, like, what do you see as his, like, what are the factors that you consider to be conservative in his work?
Well, let me first say, and by the way, I don't think that you are doing this, but oftentimes when I hear people kind of disagree with that notion of him being conservative, it's because for a lot of people, the notion of being a conservative is basically a pejorative, which to me is ridiculous. I don't think that's where you're coming from, but a lot of people think that, like, they can't understand that conservative means anything other than just like
right-wing
racist and gun
psychopath.
toting. Yeah. Like that's all the thing. So I mean, in terms of like, it seems that when you take a movie like The Dark Knight Rises that deals very much about social upheaval, he completely omits any indication that there are structural issues. He omits any actual like financial or justice or equality at the end of the movie. Ultimately, although I don't really know if he's meaning to do it, but I think ultimately the trilogy, especially the second movie, really does uphold the necessity of a noble lie, of like, these kind of guardians of the truth or guardians of a lie that ultimately brings society together. So I think that like ultimately, and like all of his movies are about kind of these beautiful lies. Like Memento is all about.
But
Go
isn't
ahead.
he criticizing the beautiful lie? Because, for example, like I agree with you, but I think, for example, in The Dark Knight Rises, we get to a point that, okay, the noble lie is there, but this, I think he's actually, it's in a way, I think he's materialistic, and I don't know if conservative or not, but Inception, for example, a lot of people pay attention to the last scene of Inception where he flips the, whatever, I forget the name, the thingy. But before that, he tells Marion Cotillard that with whatever fantastic imagination in my head I have, I cannot imagine you like you are. So in the end, I feel like in Inception, which I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a bit of a stand-in for Leonardo DiCaprio, you see him abandoning the noble lie for the shitty reality that is his kids without like a mother, for example. That was the point. Like in The Dark Knight Rises, I also feel like the Batman abandoning his role for a younger generation is a bit different from the Platonic noble lie of, like there is an ideal thing and we work towards that. I don't know.
Did we argue about this in the comments section? Was that you?
No, I've never commented on.
It wasn't you. Okay. All right. So regarding the Dark Knight Rises. Regarding The Dark Knight Rises, I honestly, I just think this is a messy film, so I don't like to talk about it a lot. But the one thing that I'll say is that, and I know it's like literally a 3-second shot, but it all depends on how you interpret the statue. There is a statue of Batman that is in the middle of the courthouse of Gotham City, upholding the legend that Batman sacrificed his life for Gotham. That could very well be an extension of the same noble lie that was basically that Harvey Dent was for the second one. Again, I see where you're coming from. It all just depends on that statue. And again, it's a messy movie. I think that if we go to movies like
Memento, what about that?
So
like
for
that's
Memento,
isn't that noble lie like being pretty much destroyed? Because you find that like every part of it is like it's all a lie.
I think this is the mark of a good filmmaker, the fact that we can disagree on this. I would say that ultimately, even by the end of the film, there's an element of sympathy with Guy Pearce's character in that, like, we kind of walk away with a knowing, just kind of like a sympathetic resignation of the fact that this is the human condition, that like our beliefs are defined by our interests, whether we have long-term memory or even short-term memory. So to me, it's like, I don't think that Nolan loves the noble lie, although definitely in The Prestige, it's probably the strongest argument you could make, because the whole thing is about like, the beauty of magic, the beauty of cinema, how beautiful it is, and how, how much meaning it gives our lives, that we can suspend ourselves and wonder for this second, or like 5 seconds when a magic trick or a film has us, by the balls emotionally. But with Memento, I mean, and again, like, I can't really disagree with you, but I would say that the way that I interpret it is that, like, at the end of the day, Guy Pearce's character, what's his name? Lenny. Yeah. Like Lenny is just a reflection of kind of like a tragic necessity of humankind, the tragic necessity of the noble lie. Like, again, like the noble lie at the end of The Dark Knight, like, I don't think that, like, Nolan isn't happy that the Joker wins. The Joker just does win, and you got to do the best with what you have in this. And in that case, it is uphold the noble lie that Batman does.
Is that necessarily a conservative position or more of a cynical sort of, you know what I mean, like a stoic. Because you mentioned in your videos, you mentioned Paul Ricoeur and the school of. I feel like he belongs more to the positions than maybe Marxism or conservatism, if that makes sense.
So I would say that the conservatism comes from that, like, what do you do when you have like this kind of, whether it's like a broken individual or a broken society, you know, like I would say a more leftist take would be something like in the new Batman movie, where, like, you know, all right, well, you know, you build the kind of structural elements of society that will allow for people to have faith in the institutions, faith in the structure, faith in the culture as such. We don't need to, like, you know, put our faith in these kind of these symbols, these myths, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, when I say conservative, I certainly don't mean like George Will. I mean like Plato.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I felt like the Batman, the recent one, felt to me a bit like the first half of Batman Begins, where he goes and meets with Tom Wilkinson. I think is the no. He goes to meet the crime Falcone in Batman Begins before he moves on to goes to Ra's al Ghul and all that, and he's like, you know, I own the judge, I own the head of police or whatever. So, you know, I felt it was a bit, to me, it felt less ambitious, not philosophically, maybe social.
Well, that's where the cynicism comes in. You're right, because to Nolan, society is hopelessly corrupt. There is no reform. I mean, there's kind of the hint at reform in Harvey Dent, but even that's destroyed by the Joker. So the only thing you can do is create a symbol. Whereas at the end of the new Batman movie, you know, we have the, you know, young black mayor who's like, with the help of Batman, black AOC, you know, saying like, no, like, you know, we can, you know, the problems that led to the Riddler were because of institutional corruption, creating this young orphaned person who was completely psychologically, emotionally, and physically ravaged his entire life. And if we're able to fix the system, then things like that won't happen anymore, and we won't have these like biblical floods that are punishing us for being horrible. Whereas, yeah, to your point, like Nolan, everyone's that judge. Like, it's just humans are going to be corrupt. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is, you know, build yourself a nice Christ figure, make the story palatable enough to get people's asses in church and actually want to pay attention and believe in good.
Well, yeah, I disagree with the church part. Yeah, but the mimetics, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Rene Girard's idea. Like, I felt like that. I saw some similarities between Nolan and Walter Benjamin, because he uses the same term, and he uses it in a less, I think, conservative manner, more in a progressive manner, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was the point I was trying to, maybe, because he's trying to say that, yeah, everybody can be Batman, or everybody can, you know, that type of thing, you know, that you see, as you said, prestige, you see something and you want to emulate it. Or
that whole everything can be Batman thing always bothered me, because like, even at the beginning of the Dark Knight, like, there's all those copycats, and he says, and one of the copycats is like, what's the difference between you and me? I'm not wearing hockey pants.
Yeah.
Like, you know, at least I always thought that, like, okay, but that's not actually what he means. Like, hockey pants is just a stand-in for the fact that like, you know, that like,
I'm rich.
No,
I have, like, good body armor. This is materialism. Like,
see, no. I disagree. Well, I mean, that's, like, again, this is a great filmmaker. We can disagree. Yeah. I definitely see where you're coming from here, but I would argue that it's not like the actual material. I mean, it is the material conditions of Bruce Wayne in a sense, but really it's also his ability to be a symbol, to set a tone, to like, you know, to create a mythos through his actions, his, you know, his mystique, that kind of stuff, you know, like, because it's not enough to just like have an army of guys kicking ass. You have to instill fear, eventually hope.
That's, I never thought about it that way. Like the army. Yeah, that's a good like,
so,
you know, it's like, mobilizing. Yeah.
Right. Like, because he's saying, like, you know, even like an army of dudes with even better than hockey pads, it won't have the power of a symbol. which is why in The Dark Knight
Ah,
Rises, like he has that fiery bat symbol. Like there was all these
on
people in
the
like the CinemaSins videos who were like, well, why did he take the time to like, put up the gas to make that bat symbol in fire, man? Like that doesn't make sense. And of course, like it's a stupid criticism to make anyway. But even
in
if
a
you
movie.
were to like apply that level of like rigid logic to the plot, I mean, you could say like, yeah, because like hope through symbols is what matters. That's what mobilizes societies. That's what changes societies. That's what gives societies hope. That was time well spent.
Okay. No, I have to rethink my
No, I mean, again,
now
like
a bit. Good answer. Sorry.
but
No, I never thought about it that way, that he's trying to say that, yeah, actions mobilizing. I was seeing it more like a, yeah, individual inspirational thing. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, but then again, I think that I think The Dark Knight Rises is so messy that like I don't think either one of us are going to feel comfortable in our positions, because there's that whole thing where he
No.
tells Joseph Gordon-Levitt that like the idea was that anyone could be Batman.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Since when?
Well,
Like,
that's what I agree. That was
Yeah.
my yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
know.
always bothered me.
I mean, what bothered me the most was the nuclear bomb being going off like 5 from New York or Gotham, sorry.
Right.
And that's like what, one wind, and that's like the whole of Gotham is dead, basically. I think that.
So
I mean, I know
I
it's no stupid cinema sins type thing, but it just. Why did you
so
say
I,
nuclear
I
bomb?
haven't seen what's his newest movie?
Tenet.
The Tenet. Okay, so I haven't seen it.
Oh,
But
you haven't seen that?
No, because, well, first of all, my theory, just from things that I've heard about it, is that this movie is his reaction to that. This whole movie is basically like the plot doesn't matter. The fact that you can't follow it, who cares? I'm literally creating like a symphony for you, that like when the music goes up and the shots get fast and there's action on the screen, like, I grab you by the balls and we go up on the roller coaster, we go down on the roller coaster. The fact that you actually have to get connected to understanding a plot is just an illusion. That's what I think he's going for. Everyone talks about how like the plot is so needlessly convoluted and stuff like that. But then I saw somebody like quoted like a scene from the movie. He said something like I don't get it, that's what matters, or something like that. And the reason I've not seen the movie is because I feel like if I just sit here and watch it on my TV at home, there's no point, because like the point is that it's a cinematic roller coaster. If I sit here on my TV and I try to read the subtitles and figure out the plot, it's going to be shitty. It's going to probably just feel like Nolan's become a parody of himself. So I just think that it was like, this is just my theory, I mean, I should probably sit down and watch it. Maybe I'm just being a pretentious asshole, but I almost, I saw Dunkirk in IMAX, and
that was
and after I watched it, I was like, man, I'm so glad I didn't see that in any kind of inferior setting. So I kind of feel like I want to do the same thing for this movie, even though the pandemic never allowed that to happen.
Yeah, I know very little about movies, but I mean, one thing I know that Christopher Nolan's music in his movies, and I think back then he insisted on the IMAX thing and having those kind of speakers, right?
He
when he
cameras.
introduced his movies.
Yeah. No, I would say Tenet. I agree with your take. I would add that in my view, in my very humble view, it was Nolan dealing with the free choice or not free choice question and kind of going, who cares? Basically, that was my impression, that sort of you can't tell, so you might as well do your best or something along those lines. But I think
there's a lot of layers to all of his films. And I've heard that a lot, that it's his least favorite. But, my whole thing about this is, you remember when it was like in front of Mission Impossible 4, there was like an IMAX sneak peek for The Dark Knight Rises. And it was the first time it was the first time that anyone heard Tom Hardy speak as Bane, and no one could understand what he was saying. Everyone was like, it was just like, and it became like this meme. People were making fun of it. And Christopher Nolan, I remember the studio came to him and said, maybe we should understand what the character's saying. And Christopher Nolan said, no, it doesn't really matter. You get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to know the story behind a roller coaster, the lore behind a roller coaster. You still feel the feels, even if you don't exactly know what Bane is saying. You know he's evil. You know that he's the threat in the scene. You know that Batman has to kill him. As long as you, that's enough to feel the feels, and that's all that matters. And he defended it, but he ended up losing that fight, and they did re-record the audio with Tom Hardy, and I think that that's a fight that he never felt good about losing, and I think that's why I think that Tenet kind of reflects that. Of course, I'm talking about a movie I haven't seen, so what the fuck do I know? But
no, but I must say I completely agree with you. His sound editing is always a reflective of that. For example, in that same scene, is still when Aidan Gillen, the CIA guy, is talking, you can hear his voice shake from the airplane, and this is something you don't hear in any. I've seen loads of movies, like you'd never hear. It's unpurposefully sometimes unclear, and I think you can see it with Batman going, "Swear to me." You know, that's not very clear either. But I agree. But I must say, in The Dark Knight Rises, I loved it. Not so much in Tenet. In The Dark Knight Rises, I felt like Tom Hardy was telling us that he's old and he's. I mean, I thought it was Sean Connery basically, but anyway, yeah, that's just the sidetrack.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I agree with the premise that, you know, like ultimately, like, because man, there's so many, like, most movies, you know, most people who even like say that they love a movie, if you ask them an hour later, a day later, and say, hey, what was the movie about? What happened? They don't fucking know. Find and especially for movies that have like convoluted plots. Like, I don't know if you guys play video games, but find one Final Fantasy VII fan and ask them what the story's about. They won't be able to tell you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's hard.
Exactly. But you still love it. It still made you feel. You still went through the motions. Basically, sometimes, you know, like in one of my recent YouTube videos, I said, like, you know, sometimes like the words in the script are really only as important as lyrics in a song. You know, you can enjoy songs in another language. Doesn't matter. The notes get you through. The notes, you know, pull you into through the emotional beats. And sometimes it's the same with a script. You know, not always. It depends on what the movie is. Like, if it's a movie like what's that fucking movie that was made in Dallas for like $8,000? You know, the movie that's like time travel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for Friends. Yeah, I forget.
Anyway, it's like the whole movie's like a puzzle. You know, like the whole point is pay attention and figure it out. It's not like, you know, a piece of cinema like Schindler's List where it's like, you know, here's emotions and down emotions, you know, like, and you know, here's the cue for you to feel and come along with the ride and grabbing your heartstrings, where, like, you know, if you miss a couple scenes of dialogue, it's not gonna primer. Thank you. That's it. Yeah,
I think that analogy, especially when you think about it, music, it's spot on.
That's
like, I mean,
good.
in movies, it can become a bit more tricky because, yeah, some movies you rely much more on dialogue. And sure, some songs the lyrics are more important and people know them better, but definitely, I mean, they can be saying anything and it just kind of goes along with the song, really.
Yeah, I mean, it helps us, you know, like, I've actually had an unfortunate been in the unfortunate scenario lately where in this fucking country, like, there's no English subtitles. So I saw, like, one of my favorite directors, Wong Kar-wai, they were showing one of his movies, The Chungking Express, and luckily I've just seen it so many times, so I was able to understand it. But like, the subtitles were only in Swedish and Finnish, and you know, like, so I mean, yeah, I mean, you got to understand some of it. But I guess my point is, like, you know, if you only understand like 75% of the words in a movie, you're still going to get like 100% of the impact.
Oh, growing up, when I was very young, I didn't know English, but like my favorite movie was Terminator 2 and Aladdin. Like, you know, it was just like, who cares? It's the sounds. Yeah. But Finland is very surprising to me, because in Sweden and Norway, their TV even has English subtitles sometimes. They don't have English subtitles?
No, it's a weird thing. Like, there's some kind of a law that, like, because like even all the signs in the city, it's Finnish and Swedish. Swedish is like, you know, the second official language. And I think that the country's kind of in a mode of cultural transition, because everyone's just kind of realizing that, like, okay, everybody that speaks Finnish speaks Swedish. Like, why not just, you know, and like, there are more and more immigrants like myself. So why not just like make it, more appealing to them? So, obviously if I see an American movie like Top Gun 2, it's not a problem.
Oh yeah.
And you
I
watched that
can't wait for
already?
that.
Is it out? Did you watch it already?
I just saw it
You did.
2 days ago.
How's
It was
Maverick? Is he good?
Oh my God, it's so good. We don't,
Oh, no, really?
Oh yeah, I would take a bullet for Tom Cruise.
Probably.
No, I mean, seriously, man, dude, like, I mean, they just don't, like compared to Tom Cruise, Marvel actors are just these fucking sissies who like walk into like a sound stage in Burbank on a green screen. They're holding their fucking vanilla iced frappe lattes. They hold the latte out of the frame of the shot and emote 3, 2, 1 action, scream, and cut. All right, go back to your fucking trailer and smoke weed for 6 hours until the next shot. Whereas fucking Tom Cruise learns how to fucking fly planes, jumps off of fucking buildings, risks his life just so something looks real and really grabs you by the emotion. That's a fucking man.
No, you have to give him that. And I mean, recently, I don't watch too many movies, but I've come to realize that all these new action movies are just in front of a green screen, and it really doesn't look that good most of the time compared to even stuff I watched back in the day.
Dude, you guys see Top Gun 2. Even if you don't know much about movie production, that's real.
Apparently, though, they attack Iran. Well, a stand-in for Iran, basically. Is that true? Like, it's a mountainous country with nuclear stuff. And
well, maybe. I mean, they do make it deliberate. Like the decals on the country's planes are like a fake country, So
okay, good. So it's not Iran specifically. Thank God.
No, and and as far as like the nationality of the bad guys, like I don't think Tom Cruise cares. Nobody cares. Like it's just like
no,
it's just good guy versus bad guy with cool shots and Tom Cruise. I mean,
he's gonna die in one of these stunts, though. I think he's like that seems to be his plan. Like because I thought, what was it? The one with the train or no, the airplane where he was hanging. Mission Impossible.
Straps himself to an airplane and then it takes off.
I thought that was like the last one, but now apparently.
And he's like 60 years old.
Yeah, that's not fair. I'm Mormonism though. That's what Mormonism does for you.
No, Scientology.
Oh, Scientology. Sorry. Scientology.
Yeah, I was like, what did he switch?
Like, no. Scientology.
Hey, say what you will about Scientology, but like, I mean, yeah, maybe it's horrible for most of the people that do it, but for Tom Cruise, I mean, Tom Cruise, like, think about Britney Spears. Both Britney Spears and Tom Cruise were basically sacrificed to the tabloid advertising gods, and basically their dysfunction was made a spectacle, and it destroyed Britney Spears' mental health, and it made her a complete invalid. Tom Cruise came out the other end stronger than
as
ever.
A god.
Maybe that's as a god. Yeah. I mean, like maybe it has something to do with Scientology. I don't know. But like the point is that the dude had some kind of support system that Britney didn't have.
Yeah, I think he definitely seems to reap all the benefits of Scientology and not get the negative stuff. At least it seems. I don't know. He must be considered a god in
he's
that
level
world.
9 or whatever the hierarchy. I don't know. I think he's got the thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's also got like money. So
that's maybe that helps too. I don't know.
I mean, I think like the worst. I mean, I don't know. Although I used to live right next door to the Big Blue Scientology Church in Los Angeles. I mean, but like, that's like the big grift, right? Scientology just steals all your money. If you're Tom Cruise, you got plenty of money to give. Yeah, Yeah, it's
a multi-level marketing, tax-free, basically. Yeah, that's what it is. Because you go through levels, right? You pay and you go up and.
Yeah, you have to.
That's what I heard.
It's basically just really, really expensive therapy, but like there's a whole cult element to it where like like they make it so that like they basically like emotionally and socially blackmail you to where you have to keep going to the therapy, and the prices are outrageous.
Have you seen Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master?
Yeah, I have. I don't really like it that much.
Oh, really? I thought, I don't know. I thought it was, from what I understand, from cults. It was like a good, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman, R.I.P. I mean, both of those actors. Although I can't help but think that, like, Philip Seymour Hoffman, amazing. I can't help but think with fucking Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, this is me totally guessing, but I just really think that, like, Paul Thomas Anderson and Joaquin Phoenix just got as fucked up as they possibly could. And just like, all right, I'm going to get Joaquin real fucked up and I'm just going to film him on a 70mm camera and see what crazy shit I can get him to do in these scenes. Like, that's what the movie feels like.
Okay,
That
I see
makes
that.
sense. No,
But then,
from a
have you seen
distance.
that? I'm
No, I
surprised.
just know Joaquin
Yeah.
Phoenix, and I just remember for
Uh,
2 to 3 years, like an idiot thinking, did he actually go into rapping, or is this a whole
Oh
movie
my
thing? So
god,
I
that
can
whole thing
imagine
is that the whole
what
thing
you're
is beyond
referring to.
insane.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I love his performance as like because in Iran you have a lot of war veterans, and he does like they are like that. This madness in there, there is no predictability. Even though they're very nice, suddenly they do shit like that. So yeah, it's one of my favorites. I must say.
I mean, honestly, you could probably have you might be tapped into something that I'm ignorant of.
Yeah, whatever.
I just found that I just it was one of those movies. One time a mark of a bad movie for me is when I'm like when like I feel like, oh, is the movie going to end right now? Oh no, there's 30 minutes left. What's the difference? In The Master, when Joaquin Phoenix is on like a dirt bike and he like drives away, I'm like, oh, is this it? No, there's actually another 30 minutes. But it could have ended. It could have ended there. I don't really know what else I got from it. But I saw that movie like 4 times. Like, I mean, I was so stoked for The Master. I saw it opening night, biggest screen in Hollywood. I think I saw it the next day. I mean, like, because it was his follow-up to There Will Be Blood, and There Will Be Blood is one of the finest films ever made. So of course, and so maybe my expectations were just a bit too high. But I really liked Licorice Pizza a lot. Inherent Vice. I haven't
seen that yet.
Oh, you should see it. It's great. Really good.
Great.
Inherent Vice, I've only seen once and I hated the shit out of it.
I like that.
You liked it?
I liked Martin Short and stuff. It was funnier than good. It was funnier than being good. I would admit that.
My general thing, like, I'm one thing I don't understand is like when people disagree about liking a movie. Like, for me, if someone likes a movie and I don't like it, I'm just fucking jealous. Like, I wish I liked everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you like it, like,
I wish I had 2 hours of fun like you did.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I mean, like, it's not like oh man, well, obviously if you were as elevated as me, you would have also hated it. It's more just like, oh man, you liked it, that's awesome.
No, I agree.
Definitely a good way to look at it. Very nice. Sab, I don't know, are there other movies and stuff you wanted to touch on or
I wanted to ask one more question. Yeah. Sorry for the pause. Talking of great movies, we just saw, I saw that video. I'm not sure if Camille did. But what do you think, why, maybe tell Camille because he hasn't seen it, why everybody should watch Morbius and it's the greatest movie of all time. And talking about bad movies you can enjoy. It's a bad movie that I think gives you a lot of jokes later on in life. I don't know.
I think this is the opposite of the answer you're looking for. I mean, to be honest, I think it's not fun to watch. It's not so good it's bad, or it's not so bad it's good. It's just bad. And I think actually, like, how bad it, like, the funny thing is, I think the people who are laughing the most at Morbius memes haven't seen the movie because it's not necessary.
The memes? Really? Like, you don't think so?
Well, maybe I'm wrong. So because I saw the movie like opening weekend like a fucking idiot. But
no.
Yeah, Morbius, like, how
do you think something like that gets made? Like this script? I don't
understand.
Bad,
but it has Jared Leto, so it has a big actor all those times you were saying.
I would my guess, there's all sorts of reasons. My guess is it's like, studio calls producer. He says, hey, we need a superhero movie for March 2022, and then producer calls Jared Leto, hey, we'd really like you to be in this movie. Jared Leto's like, all right, well, my schedule's pretty busy, I got to shoot it next month. Producer says, all right, cool. All right, screenwriter, hey, Jared Leto's available next month, we need you to write something super quick. Screenwriter says, oh shit, I can't write something in a month. And the dude's like, too fucking bad. Click. That's how these things happen.
That's how professional worlds work. So I wouldn't be surprised if it extends to also parts of Hollywood.
Really?
No, totally. Like
mechanically.
Oh yeah, it's all because, like, first of all, like, a movie like that only gets made if it has a star attached. Jared Leto was the star who said yes or was interested. His involvement makes or breaks the viability of the picture, and so, but depending on his schedule, everything else has to follow that. Like Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3, they were filming the movies before the script was written. You would like to think that the script is the most important thing. Yes, that's true. You would like to think that the script is the most important thing, but it's not. Getting the movie made in time and on budget is number one. And then if they can make they just have to fill a slot.
I know they take so long though. Can't they do some goddamn rewrites, or like any idiot can tell them this is, I mean, I don't know, Morbius, or I don't know. I'm trying.
But did it not fulfill its use? Like, I mean, did it not do well or decent or something in the box office? Because
it didn't do that bad. It did not do that bad.
Look at. Yeah.
I mean, it didn't. Yeah. I mean, it was a disappointment, but it wasn't a catastrophe. But I mean, critically, it is a catastrophe.
John Carter, but
oh yeah, oh my god,
it wasn't John Carter.
I literally forgot about that movie until you said it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, but
I mean, that's my guess. I
love your video.
It could be other things. It could be other things.
The memes you highlighted were, I genuinely thought, like, as a cultural, like it led to so many funny jokes online that I had to watch it just so I make sure I get all the jokes. But then most jokes, you're right, was about going to cinema. So
what did you think of the movie?
Oh, just I mean, it's
it really is just like you can't believe what you're watching. Awful. Like you can't believe that it's like
how character arc. There is literally no character arc. I couldn't believe that. Like, the character is good and he continues to be awesome throughout the movies. Like, what?
Because it's more important that it's just done and on time, And so, like, I mean,
and Jared Leto. No, not Jared Leto. Jared Harris. How did he sign up for that? He's actually a good actor. I don't know.
Is he Milo?
Money, I guess. No, he's the old guy. He's
I'm looking at it
old
right
guy.
here.
He's there for 5 minutes. He's the.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's Morbius as someone.
Well, hey, man, he's acting. He's acting opposite an Academy Award winner. Like.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a pretty good gig.
Richard Harris. His father was
legend. I mean, it sounds like a good gig. Cool, like a Sony Marvel movie starring an Academy Award winner. Sounds like a good gig. Chances are he didn't read the whole script. He probably got his scene and the amount of money they were willing to pay him and said, great. But yeah, that would be my guess. I mean, it's certainly also possible that everyone involved was just incompetent, or maybe just like surrounded by yes men, and they just had like a bubble of affirmation when clearly they had the shittiest thing on the planet. I mean, that's also possible, but my guess is that it's just like,
time and budgeting.
Time and budget and getting it done. Like, because, everything is Cyberpunk 2076 these days. Everything. Like, the marketing is more important. Like, if the marketing doesn't promise a better product than what is actually delivered, you're leaving money on the table. And so, like the product, in a sense, that like
isn't that bad for sequels? If you overpromise,
that's a problem for another day.
If you overpromise,
yeah.
No, I mean, not really. I mean, if the movie makes money, there's a sequel being made.
For sure.
Like, I can't think of a movie that like made a shit ton of money and was bad and there wasn't a sequel. Usually, if something doesn't get a sequel, it's because it didn't make money.
Oh my god! Did you see the Will Smith, Goblin, Orc, cop drama?
Dude, I know. I wouldn't say I'm close, but I know well the writer of that movie.
Training Day.
Right.
Bright. Yes, Bright. And it's the same director as Training Day or same writer as Training Day. If I'm not, I don't know. But anyway,
neither one.
That's they
maybe the director.
Maybe I think it's the director. Yeah. But that's gonna have a sequel, even though critically did bad, but apparently, you're right.
But it got downloaded a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever making money means on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's because even people watched it didn't like it too much. Like the audience's score or whatever the equivalent was low. But yeah, it's still getting I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who wrote it hates it.
Oh, really?
He says that the director studio they changed essential things that ruined it.
see. And I think, Jared, your
Makes
first
sense.
theory like really goes well with the second one, because if you're rushing it, making on a budget and all that, people or like, trying to get it made quickly, people working on it also aren't going to be able to do their best to be their best. So, just complement each other and feeds into that. So, I mean, if you're going to rush something and do it for just that, you're not going to also have the best creative people working on it the whole time.
It's in this, like, think of it like an assembly line. I mean, the script is the blueprint. You have all these people who are just like making these pieces, not knowing what the building is going to look like. The only person who's supposed to know what the building is going to look like is the writer and the director. But if the writer is just like, well, this is what I have with, or what I can do with what I have, and the director's just like, fuck it, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I just want to maintain a positive relationship with the studio so I get hired again. If they're already signed off or hopeless that it's going to be good, then it's just not going to be good, because no one else knows what's happening. They're just like, all right, what's the plan? We're getting these shots done today. Next day, we're getting these shots done today.
100%.
Well, considering the amount of money they spend on special effects and sets, it is like, why can't you just hire 3 more writers? Or I don't know. It's just like Avatar,
it's not part of the business plan.
Yeah,
they budgeted for that. They know that that's going to happen. That like this movie is going to cost whatever $50 million and not a cent more. It doesn't even matter if 1 more cent would make it good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, it's just, well, not surprising, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right,
Jared,
gents, I gotta go, but you guys are
really,
great.
Really
you guys are great.
Really appreciate it.
Sorry for taking so much of your time. Yeah.
No, not at all.
So I'll send you an email with the link to the video, and I think on Wednesday, hopefully, we'll put it up. So just so you have it, and we'll link to your channel in the description box. Anything else by any chance?
Maybe my Twitch.
Okay.
Which you can find on in the description of my YouTube channel. There's a Twitch link, so that would be great.
Brilliant. I'll grab some stuff for there. Okay, thank you so much, Jared. Really
thank
enjoyed
you
talking
guys.
to you. Hopefully we can do it again one day.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up anytime. Have a great rest of y'all's night.
Thank you. You too, Jared.
You too.
All right.
Thank you so much again. Bye.